Hi everyone. One of my writers, or no, sorry, one of my watchers, has submitted to me a comic that he has made himself and would like me to critique. Um, so sure, he actually submitted to me a while ago, and I guess I said I would, so I should probably get to that. So, um, okay, so here we are. I believe it reads. I believe that this is a manga, so it should read right to left. So that means that the establishing shot is on the right-hand side. So we start with an establishing shot. We see, I guess we're at someone's home. He's asleep. He hears someone say, "Help me," and wakes up, and so he sees a girl who's chained to a tree, and the dialogue is, what is this place? Who are you? And she's basically saying, "Help me, please." And then he wakes up and he's like, "What was that dream? And who was that woman?" So the good thing is I know exactly what's going on. That's fine. It's got an interesting layout, and I guess at this point, it's already a fairly finished or polished image or polished drawing, and so I don't know. Here, let me just grab that, do what I usually do, and that is let's just bring both of these pictures in. So since it reads right to left, I'll put the first page on the right, and then I'll put the second page on the left. Okay, there. That'll do. All right. So what can we do? What would I have? Well, I'm not going to look so much at the artwork. I'm going to look more at the sequence of events. Um, Establishing shot, seeing the guy in the bed, wakes up. I think um, I'm not going to say what's right or what's wrong. I'm going to say what we can do differently. And so whenever I do designs, as a designer, um, my goal is to present many possibilities and to present them as a means to compare the different possibilities and thereby be able to choose which one is not necessarily best, but which one suits the situation best. Um, it's not about just choosing pictures. It's about establishing a flow, a unified flow where everything just flows together, and as a result, it's not jarring. It keeps people immersed. So to me, immersion is about establishing a really good narrative flow. So, like I say, when I do these critiques, a lot of times it's just me saying, here's how I would have done it, and it's not necessarily better. Um, it's a matter of personal opinion, the way I would have done it. Okay, so let me just throw this onto a new layer, and there. Now I can protect that so I don't accidentally overwrite it. So okay, fine. So okay, so it's nighttime. We have our establishing shot. I'm not gonna. I think the establishing shot is fine. So maybe I'll go from the establishing shot, and we'll go straight into where he's in bed. And maybe what I would do is something more like this. And that's the other thing. Whenever I do whenever I do storyboards, I work like in completely rudimentary, um, like chibi, So have him in bed, and maybe I can have some of the. Oh right, we need the pillow. Let's squish that under his face, and okay, so he's in bed. I have him sleeping face down on the pillow, on top of the covers. And this is for a reason, because I already have in mind what I'm going to do with the second frame. I would like to do something where, and the reason why this is easier for me to do it is because I can already, like, I've already seen one particular flow through. So, I mean, the second time you do it, it's going to be easier. So, I mean, I have the advantage of seeing something that's already done and already getting different ideas. And this is why I believe in working in iterations and not cleaning things up and polishing them up, polishing them up until I find out exactly which route I want to take. So, I mean, just looking at this thing where he's, this way, seeing the body like this, it makes me think of a flow where, he would be, first on the ground and maybe, actually, and here's the thing, is like I'm actually working in reverse. So it's like I see this here, right? So he's moving from a prone position into a standing position, and then, the first frame he would actually be, over here in bed, conked out, sitting on top of his pillow like that, right? So this is what I'm doing. Is first he is asleep here. He gets up, and stands up, and he gets into that position. So you see what I mean? Is like I'll just by looking at this one frame, or by seeing, going from asleep to awake to standing, I have already constructed this in my mind. And now, because I know of that, I'm going into the storyboards and I am constructing. First we see him from in front, then we can have him, or maybe when maybe when someone, or actually, what, in this case, I'm not even going to put in the dialogue. Instead of the thing where she says, help me, I'm just going to have him, let's do this. Let's just have him kind of wake up. And just have the other eye, like, kind of half closed. Draw the bag under his eye. He's tired, man. He's just been asleep the whole time. So naturally, this is going to be his expression. That I know that whenever if I ever have like, one of those kind of weird waking, or one of those weird dreams where I do remember it, it's like in those dreams I am always tired, and so it's like I've had those situations where it's just, I can't seem to open my eyes, but it's like when I'm dreaming, I've had those. I know that feeling. It's just I can't even open my eyes, and so you kind of maybe instead of having him look up like that, maybe he's, it's like I'm looking at different things we can do, or maybe here's the other thing is I feel that, even for this the eye is still too wide open to use a flat line like that. I'm going to go for even more, right? So I'm going to dip that down. And to me, that says that the eye is really, really, lidded. Put the other bag under the other eye. So that these are ways, these are just little kind of graphical symbols that explain, how open the eye is. And there is a range, right? There's a range, because if we draw several eyeballs, right, okay, then we have several choices. We can either have, the eyeball, right? We can move the eyelid down, we can move the eyelid straight, we can move the eyelid up, right? And this is a range. That's the thing, is that my how-to videos, they're not about saying, here's how you draw an eye. Here's how, like, I mean, the title of the video may be, here's how you draw an eye, but I don't just sit there and draw one eye. I draw you a range. I draw you, I try to show that there are possibilities. These are the different things you can do, and this is what you should look for in any drawing material, is that it shouldn't just say, here is one way to do it, and this is the way to do it. No, instead, I feel that any kind of learning material should show you multiple ways to do it, at the very least, to show you a range of possibilities and if you understand, if you see the range of possibilities and you learn a range of possibilities, you have choice. You can find the best choice for a given situation. So fine, he gets up, or rather in this case, he's simply awake. We'll take that frame, and I'm not going to switch away from the camera that quickly. I want to keep, I've got a good angle on here, and I'm taking this from not a comic book. I'm not treating this like a comic book. I'm treating this more like a film. And from this film, we can choose how much of these, how many of these frames are actually going to make it into the final cut, into the actual comic. So, I'm definitely doing a different approach. So maybe in this case here, I'm going to take the other eye. Will I also open it? I don't know, but I definitely know for sure that in this case, he's gonna like kind of look around. In fact, I'm not even in a hurry to get out of this one image. So I'm gonna take it slow, all right? And because this is what I love about the thumbnails is that it's like, there, let's just have them, right? We're simply going from looking straight forward to looking over to the side, right? And if I'm not jumping the camera angle from angle to angle, from position to position, we can establish a flow. I'm already in the flow. Don't break the flow. Just stay in your camera angle until we're done with the camera angle, right? I need him to kind of stay asleep for just a while until and I need him to kind of gradually take in his surroundings because he's tired. He's just waking up. I just woke up, and and so I understand how this guy feels. He's sitting there with his pillow, right? And all I'm doing is I'm just drawing up a bunch of eyes looking around, right? Like that is the eyes looking around is already established in our minds. What he is doing. That is his action, is simply looking around. In this case, he doesn't have to do anything more. At this point, right, I can do one of two things. Not one of two things, but I can do definitely at least two things right now. I can either choose to make him wake up, and he's like, oh my God, where the hell am I? All right? I can choose to do that. Or if I want, I can throw in one more. If I'm doing animation, then I will always have the in-between. This is the in-between. The in-between is this. We take the pillow, we crush the pillow really deep, and he goes, and he's like, I'm trying to stay asleep. And he just smushes his face into the pillow. And I can just draw his eyebrow. Just like, if she's going, help me, he's like, screw that. I'm going to stay in bed. I am comfortable in my bed. Leave me alone. That is what this frame is saying. Okay? So we can go from here to here, right? And then from here to here, and then from here to here, then go up to here. This is the implied frame, and then we go to there. Right? So the thing is that this is the optional frame. If we have enough page space, if we feel like we really want to do it, we can add that frame in. So the thing is that there's this. It's not just about drawing snapshots. You're establishing a flow. You're establishing action. Treat it like animation. I treat it like animation. And so I try to get all the intermediary steps in between. And I draw with this really half-assed, really simplistic way of drawing with no style. There's no, cleanliness to anything that I do because it takes too much time. I'm just not smart enough to be able to do all that clean, nice line work and be able to, stay in the flow and, be thinking narratively, be thinking of the situation, be able to put myself in that guy's shoes while I'm concentrating on nice line work. And besides that, I owe it to myself not to put that effort in there, because this, any one of these panels or even the whole sequence might be scrapped for something different. And that means that I'd be wasting the effort that I put into cleaning it up. That's why I say I owe it to myself, because I don't like to see my efforts wasted. This is a proposal. It's just a proposal. It's just, I could try some other ones. This was one proposal, right? But unfortunately, it's like all cleaned up. Like, could still go with it, but the thing is that the more you clean something up, the harder it is to let it go. So in this case, all I've done is I've simply taken these first two panels, right? Panel 1, panel 2, and now I've stretched it out like taffy. I've just unraveled it, I've stretched it out, and I've turned it into 6 frames. And when you do your page layout, right? You can just we'll just we can turn that off, and you can grab that, and we can put this over here, and then I can grab this one, and maybe what I'll do is I'm gonna I can scale that down, put the smoothing on that. All right, and maybe let's grab this one instead, and maybe I'll and screw the page frame. We don't need the page frame right now. I just want to figure out the relative sizes of these frames to one another. All right, so here we are. We're in the flow, okay, and we're going through this thing where and maybe what I want is not just 2 frames. Maybe I want 3 frames. So I'll get 3 frames like that. Right? So now I got 3 frames like that, and then so let's see. Complete 1, 2, 3. Then the realization. So the realization is kind of like, oh God, right? So that again, now we can really start thinking relatively about pacing, right? Because to me, the size of a frame dictates how much screen time, right? Bigger frames mean more screen time. So this is where we establish things like pacing and rhythm. So this big frame where he's asleep is saying this is taking a long time. We can play play that music, right? That where everything's all peaceful, and then he hears help me, and then maybe here I can probably let's grab that frame and throw this frame in here. See, this is why I love storyboarding. Storyboarding, like doing this kind of crappy style, is that I don't care what happens to it. I can just kind of mash things around. It's very I hate the word, but organic. It's an organic way to work. It means that well, it's natural, it's organic. Well, so shit. But it's just, it means that I'm willing to push things around. It's like I'm able to find a more natural flow. So I can right there we go. Right, we can use that. So there, he crushes his face back into the pillow. He gets back up. He looks right. He looks left. Oh God. So I've taken 2 panels and turned it into 1 page. And at this point, they don't all have to be the exact same aspect ratio. They don't always have to be 4:3. These are like television NTSC 4:3. You're going to take some of them, you're going to swish them down, make them cinematic, make some of them taller. Or if anything, these 4 images here might work better like this. I can do 1, 2, 3, 4. Do them like that, right? So, and then take this one, and maybe I can do this one, more like this. And now we have his face in here, and he's going, oh God, right? So, now I can mash things around. I can push them around, and then use my knockback eraser, which is Here we are, right? I can use my knockback eraser, knock back the rough layout, still kind of keep it in there, and then accentuate the lines. And this is all just the rough layout, the rough pencil work of of the comic. And so this will not be in the final product. This will not be in the I'm not going to be putting this like this does not make it into the comic book that winds up on the racks on the shelves, right? That's because there's a difference between design and production. We're not in production mode right now. Right now we are simply in design mode, and we're being very rough. We're just kind of figuring out what will we produce, right? And so it's important to separate the two, right? So now it's like this is a good blueprint. We've got a great springboard that we can take this, then we can ink it. We can feel, we know what's going on. God, that was like the first 2 frames. And you know what? In this case, yeah, I guess you can still keep your establishing shot. Keep your establishing shot. It's fine, whatever. There's no harm in having it. It's just, I probably would have made it so that, given this particular one, I think the establishing shot could have been a facing page, right? And the facing page, well, actually, no, hang on, I forgot. We read right to left, the manga after all. So our facing page here, and let me just get my knockback eraser and just knock those guys back. All right, so our facing page here. Now this can be our whole establishing shot, and we've got, maybe, let's do this as an upward shot, so you'll see that I do this. My first 2 lines that help me feel like I'm looking up, and then I can show, the moon, and, I can show the house where he is, right, and, show that, and show, and maybe in this case, because we've got this house, we have his bedroom somewhere up there, right, and, if that is our first frame, then our second frame can gradually, we can have a succession of frames. So once again, I'll take this right back out to the storyboard, and I'll say, here's our establishing shot, where we have, here's a landscape, and, I'm not even going to worry about layout. It's like I'm not going to even worry about camera angle at this point. I'm just going to say, okay, so we've got the house, we've got the little kind of tower thing, and the next frame, is to push us in, right? We want to push ourselves, again, we're thinking film again, we're thinking, right, we're going to push in, we're going to zoom in on that. Arrows are there to tell us the direction of this, right? It's not, if this was a zoom out, then I would flip the arrowheads on the other side, right? And so now we are, I am lazy, so I'm just going to grab that, scale that sucker right up, and then I can knock it back and use a thinner brush if I really, if I feel so inclined. I can kind of understand what the heck's going on here, right? And then from here, as we zoom in on that window, well, look ahead over here. We have this frame here. Why don't we just draw the window pane over here and just yoink, stick that, and put this smooth. And now our window pane has become our panel and gutters, right? Then this is the transition, right? So that establishing shot of the outside and of the estate where he lives. So I'm just drawing this is how I draw trees, right? It's like I draw like a big kind of disc or volley thing. I branch once, then I branch again, I branch again. Okay, this is simply layout shorthand. If you're trying to draw trees, this is kind of a nice, quick and dirty, easy way to do it. And it reads, people understand that they're trees, and you don't kill yourselves drawing, all those branches in every single leaf. It's okay, don't if you're doing in the language of storyboards, you got to find your shortcuts. So that, we push in on that, then we see that, and that brings us, back into this whole narrative flow. So that means that here, we've got this kind of establishing shot, and I'm gonna go and knock that all back because I found something better, and I can draw, this the chateau, and draw the the little trees, and draw the little window, and once again we'll push in on and draw my push in frames here, here, here. that event, and you know, that basically brings us down to the point where we take this last frame that we just grabbed, right? Stick that right over there, and we know now it's like there's some nice continuity between here and there that brings us here. And here, when he wakes up, the nice thing is that we haven't even gotten to this frame yet, where we're like, oh my God, you know, there's a lady who's like, you know, she's stuck on this wall tree thing, right? In this case, it's simply he's woken up, and we want to know, oh my God, what's he waking? Well, what did he see, right? Well, what's he seeing? We don't know. We have to turn the page. And this is kind of another, I guess, comic book trick that I think of, is that, you know, at the very first page of this two-page spread, we open up on the story. We see that he's asleep. We go through a transition of him waking up. We go from basically quiet and asleep to awake and, oh God. And now we want to flip the page to find out, why is he going, oh God? And so that means that when we do our next two-page spread, we can now open up on this, right? This becomes our two-page spread. We throw that up there, right? Now we can have dun dun dun. We have him here, and you know, he's just gotten up, right? Remember, hey, remember this, right? Remember this? Well, see, I am so lazy. I'm gonna grab that and just knock this guy back. All right. In fact, let's keep him small in frame like that. Okay, so there, we can do that. You know, this is just one rough layout. We don't necessarily have to go with this, right? If anything, what I can do is I've just drawn this just because, you know, this is the image that snaps into my head, you know, of the person who's like stuck to the tree. You know, help me get me out this damn tree. Wake up, you fool! Get me out this tree. You know, like that. You know, this is a good kind of starting rough image, but if I want, I can jump right back into storyboards, you know, into storyboard mode, and say, all right, so here we have the person on the tree, and you know, we draw the guy there. Okay. Or if you want, you can just we can just treat this as our storyboard, you know, as our facing page storyboard, and then figure out, you know, let's see, we can take some of these other panels. These are the next panels where. And here's the other thing, is like I like this, okay, because this is a composition tool that I use. Like a lot of times whenever I do composite, like this is one kind of one-point perspective composition tool that I like using, and that is this guy that does like this, and we have a little subject over in the background, right? This is good. This immediately sets up a visual tunnel that just, you know, gets our eye sucked in there, you know, to wherever, you know, wherever our subject matter happens to be. Right? I like doing this. Not all the time, but I mean, this is one of the many tools which I use. You know, and the visual tunnel or this kind of effect doesn't always just have to go horizontally. You know, we can do it in other ways. We can make him really small in frame and make, oh God, giant tree up here, and you know, she's like, you know, well, let's draw the cylindrical cross section of the tree to understand that we're looking upwards, and then, you know. You know, he's over here, and maybe instead of him just standing, you know, straight up and down like that, right? Knock that back, and then I can, okay, so the tree's down here, and maybe it kind of, and that's the other thing, right? It's like I like drawing on giant canvases like this because then I can draw outside of the frame. I can figure out everything. This is why I don't design on the panels. You know, keep it separate. Do everything on a separate, you know, large canvas, and then you can start, you know, mashing things around. And then gradually we can shoehorn it into, you know, into the canvas. So he's like that, right? And he's like, you know, oh my God! Except this is kind of the standing pose. Let's bring him back down to the prostrate, prone position. You know, just getting up out of the prone position, and he's like, there. Let's do that. And you know, maybe I can just put one knee like so, and you know, so he is obviously getting up. And the other nice thing is that over here, right, I can draw here, like I can draw the pillow, we can draw the bedspread. We say we're still in a dream, but you know, he's not. Is this the real life? Is this just fantasy? So you know, that's what we can do now. he's just waking up, and he sees the girl who's like, trapped, and he's like, you know, like that. That's what there. So that's what I figure. This is how I approach, the whole kind of storyboarding process, and it's gonna be messy. It's gonna be ugly like this. You need large, well, you don't have to have a large, like you can get newsprint from the art store, like giant rolls of newsprint. Get a drafting table and, hash it all out on this big canvas. Or if you don't have newsprint, you just got like maybe printer paper, you can buy like stacks of just blank printer paper. Then, again, work on a big drafting table, get some sticky wax or something like that, or thumbtacks or whatever it is. Tack this stuff up around your desk because you need it. This is why I work on the canvas, because I need to see all this other stuff. I'm going to be cutting and pasting. I'm going to be grabbing pieces and like just ripping them from one part and mushing it around. This is my editing desk, all right? And so I don't just have only the one piece of work that I'm working on, because it's about generating a flow, a unity, the unified sequence. And in order to unify things, it's about taking the one thing you're working on and making it match with all the other things. So you need all the other things that it's going to match with on the table. It doesn't. That's just how it works. My brain, I don't have the memory to keep these things in my mind. I need to be able to look at the whole thing and go, oh, I can take that, and I can take that, and I can take that, and reuse pieces, and edit and cut them together into kind of an overall narrative structure. So, okay, so I guess that's pretty much it. I think I don't really have too much more to say, and I'll see you all later. Until next time.